else like Gravity Falls theories? Of course you do. That's why you click on this video. And I do too. I love Gravity Falls theories. I was one of those people who was following the theories when the show was actually around, believe it or not. Who am I kidding? Most people did that. But there was something about the fans that I do kind of get annoyed by, if this makes sense, okay? I'm promise this all wraps back around, I swear. Is that they are so consumed nowadays of the theory of, oh, is this show secretly connected to Gravity Falls? This show made a Gravity Falls reference. And I'm tired of it. Like, legitimately, I am. Not because they're bad, necessarily, because for a show that is built upon mysteries and theory crafting, relying on the same thing over and over again is just kind of boring, especially when it really has no relevance to the show. So, this is why I want to make this theory. Not only to try to spark some life into this community, but really because I think I'm onto something. I think I have uncovered a mystery in Gravity Falls that no one else has either seen before, or has thought about, or at the very least have not been talking about. I've tried to look into it, but I have found little in the way of people talking about it, really. And that's why I'm focusing on the mystery that I think no one has solved, or at least thought about. And I'm going to try to at least point it out. Okay, so y'all remember Wendy and Soos from Gravity Falls? They were kind of, I don't want to say minor characters, they certainly had their moments and they're part of the opening, but it's not hard to say that their relevance was never super high. Sure, they would have an episode or two, but realistically, they didn't do a whole lot in the show. Well, they did, but it wasn't like the main plot of the story revolved around them. And to be fair, it really probably shouldn't have, but there is something that's always bugged me. You see, the entire show had the premise. The premise of the idea that everybody had a major secret. Everybody had a secret. You shouldn't trust anyone in the show, at least until you know it. And that felt true for a lot of characters, like Stan. Or is it Ford? The Grungle Stan. We're going with him. I'm going with that one. Yeah, sure, he had a big mystery. A lot of other characters had mysteries. We learned a lot about the show. But it always kind of bothered me that Wendy and Soos never really had that episode where it was like, yes, this is their secret. And it really bothered me for a long time because it always felt like they were missing something, like an episode or something. And Soos was a little bit better off because he had some episodes dedicated to him, but I don't know, like, it wasn't like any of them was a big mystery. It just never added up. I don't think Wendy ever, I think the closest thing to a reveal that Wendy ever had as a mystery was that she wasn't as cool as she always looked, but that's not really a big reveal. And for characters that are on the opening title card and could be considered part of the main team, that feels a bit underserved. And then I was trying to think of things about them that didn't add up, things that didn't make sense. And then I thought about it for a second, and then I realized the Society of the Blind Eye. Now, I bet you're thinking, Will, how on earth does Society of the Blind Eye matter to any of this? Well, hear me out here. Their major gimmick when they were still on operation in the show was that they were keeping Gravity Falls unaware of all the weirdness by wiping people's memories of it. Okay, simple, makes sense. And I don't want to say it's the biggest plot point in the show, but it didn't matter a lot. It connected to a lot of characters like Old Man McGucket and Ford. But something didn't add up to me for a long time. Why are there some characters they don't seem to zap? Like really, let's think about this. We have characters like Stan, who I'm willing to bet that Old Man McGucket told don't mess with him. Okay, that makes sense. Then you have characters like, like Dipper and Mabel, who are like, oh, I could see Old Man McGucket or the Society saying, let's not mess with the family of this guy. Seems like a good idea. But Wendy and Soos seem to remember supernatural occurrences pretty regularly, even before the Society falls apart. So if they have a decent enough... Now, once again, I could have been forgetting something. Maybe I'm forgetting something in the show. But they do seem to have an incredibly well grasp on supernatural incidents. Which is weird because they shouldn't. They're just part-time employees at the guy's establishment. They seem like a very highly specific thing to specifically put a don't mess with list on. So, why do they remember everything? Now, maybe not everything, but they certainly seem to remember some things. I don't know if there was an explanation for that in the show, but then it got me thinking, what else about these characters don't add up? Well, two things came to mind for different characters. One, Soos has the mention. It says the handyman, one of the characters, I think it was Bill, I want to say, but I know what's a saying about it, that the handyman more knows than you think. Okay, but what does Soos know? Like, really, what does he know that no one else thought he knew? Like, really, did it ever play a part? Is there ever a moment where he knows something that everyone else shouldn't? I can't think of anything. The only thing that really comes off as weird is that he seems to have a better knowledge of the supernatural than other characters sometimes, but even then that's kind of vague and kind of could be because he's not always the brightest to think through. And Wendy did not have a moment like that, but there was this one moment in episode, I can't seem to find the episode. If someone happens to know what it is, please tell me, where she was literally just jumped over a roof and bent a tree down to the ground. I don't think I have to say that to you, that should not be possible. It's kind of hard to do, I imagine. Now, once again, her family all seem to have strength, super strength of some variety, but that alone is pretty weird. So, that's two kind of weird things about them, for characters that's never really had an episode to reveal any mysteries about them. But still, you can say, oh, well, it's Gravityfalls, everyone's a little bit weird. You know, maybe it's not enough to base a whole theory on, or like there's something about them that was purposely kept hidden. And yeah, I would agree with you, until I thought of one thing. What's the one thing both these characters have in common? The one thing that connects them beyond the lack of memories and occasional weird events that never get explained. It's their parents, or more specifically, the lack thereof. Now, this might sound a bit weird to you, but hear me out. We know Zeus' father's left him. We just know this. We don't know what he looks like or what he did precisely, but we did know he left, and he was a person. And Wendy's mom has never been mentioned, at least to my knowledge, in the show, and everyone seems to become convinced that she died at some point. But even then, that's two characters' parents who are just missing for no explained reason. And no, I'm not trying to suggest they are the same person or both characters are somehow connected by this. But Gravity Falls has had a long history of, well, it has a history of parallel characters or families repeating parallel lines, if you think. My classic example would be Dipper and Mabel versus Stan and Ford. What if something else similar is going on here? My idea is that, well, not that they're related. Once again, I don't think it's likely. They don't look anything alike, and generally in shows, characters will look alike if they are related. Even if in real life, that can not always fall through perfectly. But what I am suggesting for this theory is that there is something about them. I'm willing to suggest that something isn't quite right. Now, what am I suggesting here? Now, this is where my theory kind of runs dry. I'm not precisely sure. It could be any number of things. I'm not willing to bet that they were part of the Society of the Blind Eye just because they were so easily captured and because, you know, the side did not seem to have a problem zapping its own member like that. So I have a feeling that wasn't it. But if I had to take my potshot guess, and remember, this part has no theory basis in it at all, is that they aren't entirely human. Yes, I'm making a rather bold claim here. Wendy and Soos from Gravityfalls are not human, or at least not all human. This might sound crazy, but hear me out. We never see one set of their parents, and it's a very common mythology for this kind of stunt to get played. Do I even have to make a list of the number of supernatural creatures or beings who have a tendency to show up, have a kid, and leave? I mean, the most obvious one you probably think of is Zeus, but he's not even the first. He's not the first, and he's not the last, although he might hold the title for the most prolific. But that's my guesswork. I'm not certain about myself either. But I do want to hear your theories on this. I want to get this ball rolling, even if I'm not the one to finish it. Because I think there is something to it. I want people, including myself, I will try, to look into certain things about the show and try to figure out what is up with those two. That's my hopes, at least. Because, quite frankly, the show was built on theory crafting and fun times with it. And I feel it becomes stale. So I want to liven it up and answer a mystery in the show that was never truly answered. Is, what was Soos and Wendy's mystery? Yes. That's why I'm going to dub this theory. So share it around, talk about it, and come back to me. And maybe I'll do a part 2 on this when I've done more research and figured out what I believe the answers to the mystery be. I'm still leaning to them not being human, but I need to do more research. And especially to figure out what I mean by that. Anyway, see you next time. Remember to comment down below if you have any of your own theories revolving it. See you then. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're going to become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.